Hello everyone, this is Meleah with Inner Perfect, and I am recording today at Wyldlea Farm. And this is going to be my new space in which I do these occasional musings, podcasts, and as luck would have it, I finally found my microphone. It had been packed away since I moved earlier this year, back in the very early spring, and it has been bugging me. I have tried to find my microphone a couple of times, and I had a dream last night, probably actually early this morning, and part of the dream was that it was in a house. I was in a farmhouse, not the house that I live in now, but it was reminiscent of a house that I had lived in Sevier County back in 2012-ish. And I loved that house very much. It was kind of more of a Victorian style farmhouse. It was kind of like the dream house. I lived there. I had my store downstairs and lived upstairs. But anyway, in my dream, I was kind of at this house, the farmhouse, and I was having to leave. And I was having to leave, like I had acquired it. I had moved in, but then suddenly I was kind of posed with the situation of now that I was going to have to most likely leave. And in my dream, I was a bit upset, and I was saying, I didn't even really get to enjoy being here. I'm not even completely unpacked. And in my dream, I'm kind of seeing things are half decorated, half unpacked. I've still got a bunch of boxes, and I'm like, I don't even know what's in these boxes. And then when I woke up, I thought, I still have not finished unpacking. I mean, I've unpacked a lot, but I have a room in my house here at Wyldlea Farm that is part laundry room, and the eventual goal is for that to also be like an art studio, craft room, and also office. And so it has boxes that are still in there that are stacked that contain a lot of those kind of items, but I haven't unpacked them yet. And I'm kind of waiting until fall. Like, I feel like that will be kind of like a nesting period. I'll be inside more and I can really kind of get that space set up. But I was pretty sure that my microphone was in one of those boxes, because if that's going to be like my office and studio, then that's where I would be using my microphone. I'm presently right now kind of in my dining room at the table, which is totally fine. But I had looked a couple of times and could not find this microphone. And as luck would have it, it was literally in the very last box that I checked, which of course I kind of laughed at myself. I'm like, of course, last box. When of course, if you find it, it's going to be the last box, right? But it's the last box that was labeled cat closet because that was the room that I used previously at my other house. I kind of jokingly called it the cat's room because that's where the litter box was. That's where the cat food was, but it was also my studio and my office and my craft room. And so out of all the cat closet boxes, which I didn't pack, I had broken my ankle. I had to hire someone to help me pack to get ready to move. And I left it in that room like, oh, it'll be easy to find. It was just in the cat closet. But apparently I had a lot of stuff in the cat closet. Lots of fabric, lots of sewing things, lots of arts and craftsy things, and the microphone. And it was in there, but it was the very last box, which was labeled cat closet. And I found it. There it was, which, I've looked like a couple times before since I moved here. I've looked in boxes. I looked in those cat closet boxes and was like, God, I cannot find it. But apparently I didn't check that box because today was the day. So I actually have found the microphone, which obviously I'm recording this, with my microphone. And it must be a special day. There must be something, aligned in the stars, to where today is the day that I record these rambling thoughts and publish this on Substack. I might also put it on YouTube. So anyway, that's how my morning has gone. I actually feel quite accomplished having found my microphone. It has really been bugging me, but obviously not bugging me enough to look through as many boxes as I looked through today. So anyway, I want to start doing some of these recordings. Those of you who have kind of kept in touch with me know that I did energy updates. I did that for about a solid year, and those kind of started as doing like a live broadcast on Instagram, then onto YouTube. Then those would be, recorded and posted. Those were great, and I think that was a really good practice for me, a really good exercise for me to be accountable, every week, to do that on a schedule. I mean, we all have schedules in our lives, but there's something about me that feels immediately boxed in when I have something that I have to do at a certain time, whether it's every day or every week or whatever. It makes me feel kind of claustrophobic. It makes me feel almost a little bit panicked. And, but what are schedules? What is time? And it's obviously, if I just randomly went live or randomly uploaded a podcast or a video or whatever, then, people would just find it when they find it. But for the people who kind of want something to look forward to, or they want to participate in, something like a live broadcast where they can interact and ask questions or whatever, then how are people going to know, right? So I kind of wrangled with how do I provide this where it's accessible to maybe the most amount of people by saying on this day and this time, I will be doing this, right? And sticking to it. But then how do I also honor my struggle with schedule? And I understand that how humans plan things, or how humans keep up with things, is we make appointments, or we say, this is my calendar, this is my schedule, and then we can meet up at the same time, or we kind of know like which window of time or days or whatever that you might cross paths, right? Like, I get that. I'm not saying that I'm totally against that, but I really have a hard time with that, like the internal struggle. And again, feeling like boxed in and feeling like kind of roped in and obligated, instead of just like inspired. I'm like, wow, I just want to do this. And this is just what I'm going to do now. And, when I was a lot younger, like I was in, elementary school, middle school, high school, I had to keep to a schedule, because, 5 days a week I had to get up and get ready for school and catch the bus and then go to school. And then we had such a long bus ride home, it was like an hour. And I always got car sick. I do get car sick if I'm reading while riding, in a car or a vehicle. And so, whereas I would have loved to spend that time, on the bus, just reading a book. I love to read, or, doing my homework, which I always wanted to get my homework done before I got home, because I was like, I've got other things to do. But I would usually attempt to read, or I would attempt to do my homework, which of course would involve reading something, right? And then writing. But man, within 10, 15 minutes in, I'd start feeling queasy. So sometimes I would power through, and sometimes I would just have to close my eyes and say, well, I'm going to have to ride this out, and then, pick up where I left off once I get home. So anyway, I, as a lot of children do, as a lot of school children do, right? I stuck to a schedule that was expected of me, that was required of me to go to public school and to do the things. And I'm kind of more of a night owl ish. And I would have much preferred to probably stay up till 10 or 11 o'clock or something and, go to bed and get a good 8 hours of sleep. I love my sleep. But because we had to catch the bus so early and I didn't want to feel rushed in the morning, I don't like feeling rushed in the morning. That is still true for me today. I would go to bed fairly early, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, even as a teenager, because I wanted to be able to get my good, amount of sleep and have to like get up at like 5:36 in the morning to get ready to catch the bus at like 7. And so, I did that. I was responsible, but it was not like naturally what my biorhythms wanted, what my internal schedule was. But I did that for a long time. Now, my senior year of high school, I pretty much started the school year pregnant with my oldest son, and I had the worst morning sickness ever. I had morning sickness so bad from like pretty much as soon as I was pregnant, a couple weeks into for a solid 3 or 4 months into my pregnancy, maybe even longer. It was so long ago. But it was rough. I actually lost 10 pounds because I was just throwing up all the time and I couldn't keep any food down. I was just queasy. And it was really, really, really bad in the mornings. It's, they call it morning sickness. It was kind of all day sickness for me, but in the morning it was worse. And so luckily, I was able to get a homebound teacher so that she would come to my house and a couple days a week, and she would bring me my schoolwork, and then she would take it to the teachers, and she would do her required things, and I didn't have to get up super early to go to school for that semester of school. And during that time where I was on homebound, I only had I think it was like a credit and a half to graduate. I had taken a full course load in high school. I was also able to enroll into the adult high school, and I was able to take my like second semester's worth of English there. So I was able to actually go to school with the homebound teacher and do my work at home, and then I was able to go to the adult high school, do my required work and testing and stuff there, and kind of crammed it all into that semester. And I graduated a semester early, so then I could just focus on getting ready to have a baby and starting my new grown-up life and all of those things. And it was much more doable not having to get up at freaking 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, because I was so just awful queasy, miserable. So anyway, that's a really kind of wide tangent to give you a few examples of how sometimes, yes, or a lot of times, I guess, for a lot of people, yes, we have to kind of power through our uncomfortableness with a schedule, with how our body feels, where we are kind of mentally, all of that, whether that's, getting up earlier than we maybe normally would or naturally would, and kind of powering through, fueling ourselves with coffee or whatever, trying to stay alert and awake, or be alert and awake to then start our day and do our things and get in our car and be in traffic or whatever it is, get the kids to school, whatever it is. And then also, adhering to those external schedules of whether it's our job or it's appointments, other people's errands that we have to run, and then there's social things, right? Like meeting up with a friend or, going to a cookout or whatever it is. I mean, they're all scheduled, right? They're all about time. And again, like I said, I understand that that's how we kind of agree that if we're going to meet up and do something, or if we're going to provide a service for someone, or we're going to go to an appointment and have a service provided for us, or whatever, that we got to schedule it, right? If it was all just at the whim and flow of the universe, like, might not get as much stuff done. But that's kind of for efficiency, right? And I don't have a problem with efficiency in certain things, but as I've gotten older and as my life has gone on, and I've really at least paid attention to my natural rhythms, and where, certain times of the day, or certain situations in which I really, really thrive, versus, yeah, I can try to suffer through or power through, but it kind of then brings up a lot of more, emotional turbulence or anxiety or whatever. Um, just being observant of kind of my natural flow, and then, and how I operate. And then if I'm forced, or if I choose to put myself in a scenario where, I have to kind of be in the constraints of somebody else's structure or schedule, wow, usually it's quite a difference in my mental state and my emotional state and my energetic state. And so I have appreciated so much, and I have found to be true for me, that moving up to my farm and having, probably first and foremost, just a completely different bubble of energy that I'm in, being outside of a city, being outside of a neighborhood, and also really being at home a lot, has been not only so good for me, but it is actually my optimal state. It is my optimal flow, because I found myself being able to just really relax and listen to, when I'm tired, I go to bed. When I wake up is when I wake up. And I find that, even though, yes, I am kind of more of a night owl, I find myself waking up after I've worked through about 2 sleep cycles, and I'm like, okay, I feel rested. I don't feel like low blood sugar. I don't feel groggy. I don't feel stressed starting my day, whatever. And then I just have a slow and gentle morning, and have such a boring but really awesome rhythm of, like, okay, and then I feed the dogs, and then I let the dogs out and we walk around, and then I make my coffee. And, it's like, I'm so grateful for the simplicity of that rhythm. It's a rhythm, not a schedule. And, just kind of like looking back throughout my life, and all the different schedules and expectations and stuff that I have found myself in, or I've put myself in, or I've agreed to, or whatever it is, chosen. Sometimes it's amazing to me that I've been able to, like, quote unquote, thrive or push through or get by in schedules that were so different from what my natural rhythm is. And now that I am in this more chill rhythm, which, I still drive into Knoxville on Fridays and Saturdays and run the shop, and then I'm luckily in that really awesome oasis, like, bubble of the shop. But then, I do have to, like, get there, so I have to, leave at a certain time, drive over an hour to get into work, and there's traffic and stuff. But, at least I'm going to a place that's pretty chill, right? Not complaining. But I have like 5 days to kind of do whatever I need to do, whatever I want to do. And there's, like, work to do, right? Like I said in the beginning, I'm still unpacking, and there's, like, a much bigger yard and property to take care of and things like that. But, it's not like I'm not so boxed into a very tight schedule to where there's as much stress related to it, right? It's responsibility, but it's more of like, the responsibility is internal, instead of it being, like, put on me externally, which apparently is much better for me. But again, as I've been in this rhythm and I've been in this more relaxed schedule now, uh, I'm a pretty introspective person. I am thinking about things all the time and trying to understand them and how do I feel about them and what does this mean or whatever. And maybe that's normal. Maybe that's how everybody is. I don't know. That's how I am. Um, but I feel like I've had so much more time for reflection and for introspection and for feeling things. Like I feel so much more emotional. And I'm not like a, I've always said, I'm not a big crier, and I'm not, or I haven't been historically, but, maybe it's like perimenopause. But I think it's really more of the slowing down of my life and just sitting with things that I have been so much more emotional lately. And I'm like a Cancer moon. I'm a Scorpio rising. And so like I feel the things, but I think, and I've always felt the things, but I think that for the majority of my life, I just made myself power through. I made myself just say, but I don't have time for that. This is not the situation that I can actually have a meltdown or cry or whatever. I just need to get through this. And then as life went on and more responsibilities and more situations, a lot of those things I took on myself, right? Or I didn't say no, whatever it is. I'm not blaming anybody else, or, the situation that I found myself in was a lot of times my own doing. But it was a lot of, honestly, like survival and just getting through the best that I could instead of really honoring where I was at, how I was feeling, to slow down, to rest, recuperate, all of that. And I know that so many of us, that's just our life. You're just getting through, and then maybe you're, can get through until the weekend or your days off, or until that vacation you might be able to take, once a year, once every couple years, or you get sick because you're so freaking burnout and burned out and tired and exhausted and all of that, that your body's like, well, if you won't take a rest, then I guess we're going to have to rest this way. Right. So anyway, I'm so grateful for the, the place that I am in my life, to where I can honor like whatever feelings I'm in, or whatever emotional state or mental state, or whatever I'm in, and just be with that. And if it's like, I kind of thought that I would take on this project today, but I'm just really not feeling it, then I let myself align with what does feel right for me. And that's always ends up being like the most productive space that I can be in, as someone who is imaginative and creative and all of that. Oh, I just do so much better with, what am I inspired to do? What am I feeling excited about, or led to, or drawn to, instead of, you have to do this, right? I really don't deal well with the whole boxed in authoritarian type vibe. I really buck up and I really get mad. Usually I just keep that inside, but it's it's no fun and it's no good for me. So, rhythms and inspiration is the whole vibe that I am just really living with right now, and it feels so good. And kind of the irony, whether it's ironic or something else, that I wouldn't, in the way that my life was and the way that my life has been, never having like a life of leisure, like I wouldn't be where I am today as my life was. There could have been a million other scenarios and situations and life choices and all of that, right? But the choices that I made and how my life was, and the family I was born into, and all of these things, I had to bust my ass, and I had to work, and I had to pay things off, and I had to do all of these things that were really hard and really contradictory to my natural state of being, so that I actually could eventually, in my freaking mid 40s, buy property that, doesn't have a bunch of neighbors around, that has a house, and I'm just out in the middle of the woods. Like, I wouldn't have this if I hadn't done all the hard stuff for the majority of my life, or my life all the way up until this point. It's not like someone just gifted me, this property, right? I worked for it for a long time to be able to be in the financial situation that I'm in. And for me, I'm so okay with where I'm at. Like, I'm so grateful. It is so good. But it's not like I'm in a $500,000 house, or it's not like everything's perfect and pristine, or I have a brand new car, or whatever. But it's like, I 1000% would am so happy with what I have, versus if I had to, and no offense, but I'm saying this is just me, like if I had like a corporate job, or I had a bunch of credit card debt to have the look or the facade of, oh, I have all these nice new things or whatever. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. And, my time and my effort and everything is so much better, like, well spent here doing this, having this beautiful natural rhythm for me, than freaking killing myself working for someone else, pounding the pavement, paying other people to raise or teach my kids. I homeschool Evan, like, and I'm just speaking for me, and like what is true for me and what is right for me. I'm not saying that anybody else doing anything else is wrong. I am saying what I know I need and what works for me. So I'm just really thankful. I am thankful. And I think it is interesting, like, to look back, like, I could have made lots of different choices in my life to where maybe I could have manifested this kind of setup, where my house, my land, this rhythm, I could have manifested it in lots of different ways, I assume, but I didn't, like, I did it the way that I did it. And of course learned a lot of things along the way, right? But, and so I think that's kind of where I'm honestly at now, mentally and emotionally and spiritually and energetically, is that now it's like I almost have the environment or the space that is more is more of a natural state of being for me, to where I feel like I can thrive in exponential ways compared to how I powered through before, which is one way to get something done, right? But to be able to thrive in my more natural state of being, and really focus on things more like manifesting, but it's like, not only keeping my energy clear, but enhancing my energy and just being like more expansive, and then magnetizing, aligning with those other situations, scenarios, energies that are going to be great for me. And so for those of you who, do manifesting, talk about manifesting, read about manifesting, listen to other people talk about manifesting, intention setting, all of that, and maybe you're so amazed, but then also kind of secretly doubt if you actually did manifest it right at the same time. Maybe some of you are great manifestors, and that's great. That's congratulations. But for those of you who like almost like have the book smarts about it, or you've tried, the steps, but you just can't make it happen, it's it's, well, as we know, it's not making it happen. It's like you relax. You relax and you let it come to you, right? But I can truly empathize and understand how challenging that is if you're doing all of the quote unquote normal things of your life, your schedule, your demands, your debt, your expectations of others, and oh my God, all the other things. Like, how do you have anything left for yourself? How do you even have a second to pause to listen to the essence of who you are, to be in your natural state of being, so that you can just relax and let things come to you, right? Or kind of more of the reality is like you're freaking stressed out, you're pushed to your limits, you're burned out, whatever it is, and so that's the energy that you're probably embodying most of the time, and so that's kind of the more of the stuff that the universe sends to you. I mean, that's just like attracts like, right? Which is really self-defeating and is really frustrating, but you're like, how do I get out of the loop, right? It's hard. So anyway, I think that number one, again, I am just so thankful and so grateful to be exactly where I am today. And I can look back and see all the things that I did or didn't do and, that were contradictory to where I am now, different than where I am now, but I am where I am now, and I'm just so thankful for that. And I guess, so I'm just saying, like, I'm not bragging. I'm not like, oh, I got it all figured out. I mean, I finally just decided that there's no time like the present to do what I've always wanted to do. And I was just going to try. And I kept telling myself that I was just going to trust that everything was going to fall into place even better than I could imagine. I mean, and I had to still take like actual physical steps, literal steps to make it happen. I had to sell my house that I had had for over 20 years and get it ready to have people come and look at it all the time, and pack up a lot of my stuff to stage my house. And then I was like, okay, and where am I going to go, and am I going to have to build a house, or I mean, all of these other things that were really stressful and stuff. But I just kept, every time I kind of found myself getting like a little wound up and like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make all this work, and is anybody going to buy my house, and whatever it is, where am I going to live? I just reminded myself, what is meant for me, it's just going to fall into place. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be magical. And I just have to trust that. I can't get in my own way, right? I just keep aligning with, it's all going to work out. And I know, like a long time ago, I remember my first husband, if I would be stressed about stuff because we were broke. We were so broke. And he would like quit his job all the time. And I was, had a little baby, and I was trying to like, do odd jobs and work and everything too. And we were so poor. And he'd be like, it's okay. Everything's just going to work out. And I'd be like, I don't find that comforting. How is it going to work out? What are we going to actually do to make it work out? Right? And he would always be like, it'll be fine. It'll just work out. And I mean, we were never destitute. I don't know. I mean, we survived, right? Maybe things did work out, but I know that I really struggled with, but we still have to take those action steps to make it work out. We can't literally like sit on our asses and just expect everything to be okay, right? Like food probably is not going to just manifest on the table without us lifting a finger. We got to do something, right? But I feel like I'm much more in a place in my life now to where I can truly believe and understand that things will work out than I was able to do so then. Something about, being a young mother and having a little baby to take care of for me, definitely brought out that energy of, I was going to make sure that things were going to be okay, right? Like I needed to do something about it. And we're all in different places, and, in our life, you might be in a very different place in your life. than I am right now, right? But gosh, like I said, I'm an introspective person, but I have been very introspective, thinking about all of, the experiences that I've had in my life, and all the different versions of me, and I know why I was a different version of me back then, to where I'm able to be so much more like relaxed and laid back and stuff now. Um, but anyway, that's maybe for another recording, because I have been going on for 35 minutes, and it's all good. I found my microphone. I'm so glad. But anyway, I am going to, I think, kind of wrap things up and leave it there. And I'm sure more of these musings, these recordings, podcasts, whatever, some of them will be more, like intentional as far as like a specific topic or agenda or whatever. But I just wanted to record this, and I just wanted to get this out there, one of many. And like I said, I was so excited to actually find my microphone, and it was definitely prompted by that dream. And I was like, all right, I got up and I was like, okay, today's the day. I'm gonna find this, because I've been here a while, and I really need to find my microphone today. So there we go. Well, here's to hoping that you have a fantastic rest of your day whenever you're listening to this, whenever you stumble upon it. And until the next time, I will see you on the flip side. Thank you. Bye-bye.